As marketers, this is the time to invest. And why is that? Because you need to give a reason why they should buy your product, your service.
Hello, and welcome back to the Blissful Mompreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Hall, and I am so grateful you are tuning in today. Today, I have the privilege of sitting down with Alexandra Michelle Gonzalez. Alexandra is a trailblazing global marketing expert and founder of Savvy Marketers, LLC, an award-winning marketing firm recognized as one of the top 5 most disruptive companies at the forefront of innovation in the U.S. With over 25 years managing iconic brands across CPG, food and beverages, pharma, fintech, and e-commerce, Alexandra blends strategic vision with cutting-edge AI-driven insights to help clients uncover deep consumer truths. Her women and minority-owned agency has earned numerous accolades, including Stevie Awards, Communicator Awards, and Hermes Awards. Alexandra holds certifications in design thinking from Stanford University and neuroscience for leadership from MIT. Her mission to put consumers at the center of business strategies has transformed brands globally, while her commitment to ESG principles drives Savvy Marketers to donate 10% of project profits to nonprofit organizations like Earth Justice and Saved the Children. Alexandra, welcome and thank you for coming on the show. One quick question before we begin, because most of our audience are moms or soon-to-be moms. Are you a mom yourself?
Of course, that's my story. I've been a marketer for about 30 years, and very interesting story. I worked in the corporate world, managing multi-billion-dollar businesses, traveled the world, and I didn't have children at that time. When I had my kids, I have 3 daughters. My first daughter, my work didn't really change. The second time that I was pregnant, my 2 grandmothers passed away 4 weeks apart. I got pregnant a week later, and I knew that I was having twins. So all doctors, during the beginning of my pregnancy, they told me to abort one of my twins because she was 38% smaller. And I said, but is she okay? Is she healthy? Yeah, for the time being. And I said, well, if she's okay, I'm all they've got. So I fired all of my doctors. All I keep being told, oh, no, you should abort, it's a risk. And I said, but are they okay? So I went through having ultrasounds, 3-hour ultrasounds twice a week. So I knew every single blood vessel of twin A and twin B. I fought for my babies. I still kept working business as usual because that helped me to mitigate the stress and not lose hope, right? Not get sidetracked. And after the birth of my twins, they were in the NICU. One was 4 pounds, one was 2 pounds. I relocated with my family to California. I was now running an e-commerce business in baby. So I went from baby consumables with Johnson's Baby to baby durables with Ergo Baby. I expanded in 60 markets. I built a pipeline for 5 years. I did the strat plan for 5 years, and I had an epiphany. I get approval from the board, and I'm like, I think that I've done what I needed to do here. And my husband says, well, then what do you want to do? And I said, well, I think maybe I want to go on my own. Maybe I could and raise my babies while also managing my own time. He says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, with my expertise, I could bring value to other companies, but do it on my own terms, on my own time. So everything that I went through being pregnant and being able to overcome that until the very end, then having my kids, my preemies in the NICU and all that just gave me a sense of resilience, and it sparked something new in me. And that's when I took the biggest risk of my entire career, Christina, going from being very well placed in the corporate world, making good money, getting great stock, great bonuses, to being a mom, and going on my own. My twins today are 13 years old. They're thriving. They're honor roll students. I have my 50-year-old great girl too, but they inspired something in me that I took the biggest risk of my life. Maybe I thought maybe I'll do it short term and then maybe go back to the corporate world. But I've been 13 and a half years in business, right? So that just tells you they're going to turn 14. So I did it when they were, about 8 months old when I made the decision. But by the time that they were 12 months, I was already full blast with my own business. So I started small and then expanded. And we're a global firm, employing people, trying to make a difference with our clients, with communities, helping build brands consumers love, and, you know, be an inspiration to other women, be an inspiration to my daughters. Never take no for an answer, because I never took no for an answer, right? So that's why when the PR agency mentioned about the opportunity of being your podcast, I said, oh my gosh, mompreneur. It's like, what a perfect fit, because it fits right into your audience, right into my story. Who says that when you could come from a career, Christina, but you can still be all you want to be. If there's one thing that women have proven the world, is that we can do it all. We can do anything that we envision. So does that mean shifting gears and retiming ourselves on how do we go about things while also raising babies? I did it with 3 babies under the age of 2. So that tells you it is possible, right? There's also that sense of guilt when you're doing your own business. How much time do you spend being a mom? So there's a lot of anecdotes that I can also share with your audience, because you can do it all. I am a clear example of that, right? So anyways, it's just a great pleasure of being here with you today.
Oh, that is just such a beautiful story. And I am so thrilled that your daughters were healthy and, and are thriving now. And just great that you trusted your instincts and you said, no, if my babies are fine, I'm not going to abort one of them. Absolutely not. Because now this beautiful life is here. That I'm tearing up just thinking about it. Just so beautiful. And you are just I know that my listeners are just going to love this story because you are such an inspiration, truly.
Thank you. And look, the beauty was that luckily I was able to make that decision, right? I think that being the owner of your body, being the one carrying life, I was very happy to be the one making those decisions, even when all I was hearing is no, because a lawsuit, no, because if something happens to one, then it could impact the other. Yeah, but if they're okay and I'm walking down the street and get hit by a car, then, I'm all they've got. So that instilled something in me that I would be delighted, of course, to share with your audience. But it's like, I hear people, I feel that sense of guilt. I don't know if I should be doing something while also taking care of my kids. Says who? You can do anything. You can do anything. Just find something that you want to do, that inspires you, that you feel that you could add value and make a difference, and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take no for an answer.
Yes. So speaking of that guilt, because that is just, I hear that over and over again. How do you approach that? How do you balance, being a mom, being such a successful business owner?
Okay, I can tell you, Christina, that is one of these things that you need to be very clear on what you're doing. Because when I started my business 13 and a half years ago, I started from my home. So I had a home office. I hired one employee, and then I had some interns, but I didn't have offices, right? I didn't have a traditional what you would say traditional business. I had a nanny that was helping me out, but I was spending a lot of quality time in between meetings, in between work. I would go and spend time with my babies, right? Then, when it was time on my fourth year in business, I decided to open offices. There I started like with about 5 employees. We were about 3,600 square feet. And I told my children, I said, I sat them down, and I remember that, Mia Bella was about 6 years old and the twins were very little. And I said, look, mommy's going to be with her business in an office. That means that mommy's not going to be here during the day. Mommy's going to come after 6 o'clock and sometimes later than that. But mommy, it's not about quantity of time, but quality of time. And they understood that, right? Of course, there were moments of guilt. Oh my gosh, I'm working on a big project and it's 10 o'clock and I haven't been, home. But then I overcome that by spending more time with them, by doing things out and about, or when I'm traveling or before I travel, spending time individually with them or together with them, right? So building that sense of connection, that is very important. But I had upfront communication. And then, of course, as you can imagine, then we expanded. Now we're in 8,000 square feet. We're about almost 20 employees. So when you have employees plus clients plus trying to run a business, you wear many hats. So any entrepreneur, whether you're a mom or not, you're wearing a lot of hats. So on top of that, being a mom adds even more. So the guilt is, oh my gosh, it's been like 2 days that I haven't spent time with my children, but give them a call to FaceTime, then go and spend time with them. So you're really making the most out of it because time passes very quickly, right? I still remember when they were little and time flies so quickly, but you want to build that connection. And you have to also encourage your children. In my case, I only have daughters, that look at what mommy's doing. That shows you that you can do this and even more, right? So I am trying to set an example of what a strong, confident, woman looks like. That it still can be a wife, can be a mom, and can run a business, right? And then try to always take time to spend with them. That's what I say. Now they're a little bit older, so they spend also time with their friends. They're socializing, they're playing sports. But then when I go home, it's that time. So I'm going to give you a quick example. Yesterday, I had a very good day where I had finally a new business that took fruition. So I was coming home and I wanted to celebrate. So I told my girls, I'm on my way home, and I said, okay, I want everybody to be downstairs when I arrive so we can spend some time together. And I shared with them the news, and they were so thrilled because I want them to feel that they're part of this. Mm-hmm. And they were so proud. They said, Mommy, I'm so proud of you. This is great. This is great. And then we took time together and then we ate together, right? Is that something that I would do every day? I wish I did, but not necessarily that's the case. And of course, you have a sense of guilt, but try to have the communication, try to spend a time. And even if during weekdays it's harder, but do it on weekends, right? And sometimes there could be weekends that it's harder depending on your business as an entrepreneur. But take time, but tell them and encourage them that this is not only something for you, it's a legacy that you're giving to them. I'll give you a great example of, there was this brand Poppy, the soda that it's like gluten-free, very nice brand, not gluten-free. They have other benefits, probiotics and prebiotics. This woman launched it with 2 babies from her home. Great design, built a business little by little. I remember I started buying her products through Amazon since the pandemic. And, my kids liked it. I liked it. She just sold her business for $2 billion to PepsiCo. $2 billion. So that shows you that even a mom with young children that felt inspired about creating something that she felt there was a void, nobody providing in the market, and she was able to do it. And less than 10 years later, she sold it for $2 billion. It's fantastic. What a great story. So that shows that you can, and we as women and as moms can do it all. The one thing that I can tell you, Christina, one of the biggest perks that I had in my life that I will share with your audience is I had the blessing of working for Johnson & Johnson Consumer for many years, for 12 years of my career. And in that, I worked over 5 years in the baby business. And think about this, Christina. I was working and managing the baby business. I started first responsible for the Caribbean, then Latin America, and then globally. So I knew motherhood. I knew baby care, but you would say better than anybody, right? Because I was spending millions in market research, hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising, and I had over $5 billion in sales. So this is public record, so I could say this. There's nothing private or confidential about it. But the interesting thing is, I wasn't a mom myself, but I remember going to hospitals, speaking to moms, seeing that journey of motherhood, of babyhood, that having a baby changes everything, right? But it changes it for the better. So when I became pregnant myself, I became pregnant for the first time in 2008, meaning during the no, actually, it was 2009, but it was after the recession in 2008. Yeah. I was traveling less. And I said to my husband, the time is now or never. And it happened. I became pregnant and I enjoyed every moment of being pregnant. I enjoyed it because I was working in the baby business. But there were a lot of things that a lot of people never told me that would happen after you give birth, right? So I had natural birth delivery. I live in Princeton, New Jersey. So I had my baby at the hospital and it was going to be my OBGYN. Then she disappeared because I was 41 weeks pregnant and I was dilating, but the baby wasn't ready to come out, although I was 41 weeks, 10 months. So you can imagine I couldn't wait to get the baby out, but I went through normal labor. And then I had a midwife. So nobody told me that I was going to be bleeding for 40 days. Nobody told me, hey, you're going to be wearing almost diapers, these huge pads. So there were a lot of things that despite knowing the category, that people didn't tell me. And I decided to breastfeed her. So, I went back to work, but I had her in a daycare that was part of my company, and I would go and I would nurse her, and I was pumping milk and going back to work. But the one thing that I noticed when I became a mom, I was more efficient with my time. Why? Because I didn't have the luxury of spending too much time in the shower. I didn't have too much luxury of time on sleep. So I had to become smarter on how I manage my time. So imagine the second time around that I'm pregnant, I lose my two grandmothers 4 weeks apart. A week later, I know that I'm pregnant. I take a pregnancy test and I knew that my due date was my birthday. So I knew that there were a blessing in disguise. So when I get the confirmation that I am having twins, I start hearing people, oh my gosh, imagine how difficult that's going to be. How are you going to deal with that? All that. And I didn't stop working. Working helped me stay focused, not lose hope, right? I'm a woman of faith, so and I'm very resilient, but I found a strength in me that I never knew I had before in my life. So after I give birth, then I am business as usual with work. I'm interviewing people. I'm having people fly meet with me at the lobby of the hospital because I'm in the NICU. I'm still working. I didn't stop. And then we relocate to California. So imagine moving your family to another state, working, getting adjusted. And thank goodness my parents, siblings live in California because they're in the movie business. So it was, at least I had a support system. But then when I decided to go on my own, then for me, okay, I'm going to decide what my time is, what my goals are, what I can embark on and be present, right? Because they were very little. So I had a nanny, but they were very little. And then a year and a half later, I decide, because my clients were mostly in New Jersey, to relocate with my family, buy a house here, and then work from home. So you can imagine, I took my time, right, to do things and to do them right. And when it was the right time to expand and actually open offices, then I embarked on that. Does that apply for every entrepreneur or mom entrepreneur out there? Not necessarily. Maybe you stay forever working from home, working and manage your time. That's okay. But in my case, I needed to do that. And I did. But then I was able to plan accordingly and also set my girls to understand that. Now that they're older, they can look back and they know, look, mommy's busy, but they know that they can count on me. They can call me anytime. So that sense of guilt, yes, you have it, right? I cannot deny it because then I would be a hypocrite, right? So yes, there is sense of guilt. But what I would tell your audience is you need to find time not only for your children, but time for yourself. Because the one thing that I discovered when I became a mom was I had much smaller, little time for myself to pamper myself, to do things that I used to do, right? Because now I became a mom. I have responsibility for little ones, right? So I couldn't spend 30 minutes in the shower if I wanted to. Now, if I spend 10 minutes, wow, that's a miracle, right? If I wanted to wash my hair, but now I can only wash it once a week, right? I ended up using dry shampoo or doing other hairstyles. But what I'm trying to say is, as a mompreneur, think about, yes, finding time with your children is vital because they need to see who you are, that you're strong, resilient, smart, savvy, powerful entrepreneur who happens to be their mom. So they're going to see you as superwoman, right? But it's also important that you also find your sense of self. Take that self-care, take that time, that even if it's a little bit of time during the day, a little bit of time during the week. Hey, if you have to sleep a little more, sleep a little more. If you need to meditate, meditate. If you need to go out for a walk or exercise, do it, right? So we need to balance those things regardless of the type of entrepreneurs that we are. Maybe we're doing side gigs, side business. Maybe we're doing consulting. Maybe we're launching a new product or a new service. Whatever it is that we're doing, or maybe we're being a fractional CMO or accountant or anything. Just make sure that you manage that sense of guilt because it's still going to be there, but spend time, but don't make it about quantity. Make it about quality. And more importantly, take good care of yourself. And taking good care of yourself, it's not looking good or putting makeup or getting the best hairstyle or spending the most amount of wardrobe. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I have love for myself. I take care of myself. So it's not the quantity again, it's the quality. That's what I would say to your audience.
Oh, that's just beautiful and so needed. And just Alexandra, I love your energy and your enthusiasm. It really is infectious. So, thank you. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about marketing because this is your expertise. So what trends are you currently seeing in 2025? Where is marketing right now?
Great question. So I've been a marketer for almost 30 years of my career. I started very, very, very young. And then I was able to scale up and rise up because workaholic, perfectionist. I always wanted to over deliver. I'm very passionate. I have a lot of energy. So that's just part of my core of who I am. And I always had a very strong sense of purpose. When I look at the industry, when I look at what's happening, I can tell you, because I was having a sort of an epiphany yesterday, because one of the things that we do at Savvy Marketers is we're a full end-to-end marketing firm. So we do a lot of market research. We place consumers at the center of everything we do. So we're doing research in the United States, all over the world. We're looking at trends. We're seeing what's happening, what's shifting in the market. And we bring a lot of different value, either for creatives, for branding, for expanding to new markets, training, driving marketing excellence, achieving excellence in execution for different clients, or specifically innovation, helping launch new brands, new products, helping startups or corporate America. But the one thing that I would tell people is right now, I want everyone to think from your audience that we're all on the same flight. I used to fly at least 1,000,000 miles every year because I would travel 75 to 90% of my time all over the world. And I did that for almost 11 years of my career. And imagine that we're all on the same flight. We're all going to a destination. We all have a goal in mind. But during that flight, because there's winds of change for those that have traveled on an airplane, no, right? You may be at 35, 38,000, 41,000 feet of altitude because that's where there's less clouds. So you're going to get less turbulence, but still you can get some air brakes, air holes. That means that you're with air pockets, you can have some turbulence. And then there's going to be change in wind, right? So that's where you can get a bumpy ride, or if there's a storm or there's rain, all of that impacts turbulence. So I want you to think that where we are and where we have been in the last 4 months is we're on the same flight and we're all experiencing a little bit of turbulence. But what I tell people is, look, inflation, tariffs, all of these back and forth policies and things that are happening, a potential recession, yes, it's creating a lot of buzz and it's creating a lot of uncertainty. But what I would tell your audience is, I want you to look back at 30 years, and I'm going to tell you what I have experienced as a marketer before I go into the specific trends. So when I started in the late 1990s. And the biggest hot topic back then in marketing or in any role was Y2K. And probably that's going to be too young for your audience.
No, well, I remember. Yes.
1999 to 2000. So we were thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be the end of the world. People are not going to be able, bank statement systems, financial systems, changing the digit from 1999 to 2000, we thought it would be impossible and the end of the world. So we managed that in a way that everyone took proactive action to make sure that we were proactively going into Y2K so the systems wouldn't break, so the system wouldn't fall down, so that wouldn't create a global economic downturn, and that people will be able to have access to their money, right? And guess what? All companies prepared. I was in marketing. I was part of a Y2K team. Imagine I was in my early 20s, all this, right? I'm revealing my age somehow. But long story short, companies were able to overcome it. Entrepreneurs were able to overcome it. So that was the first storm that I experienced, right? Because never before that in the 20th century people had experienced that and we were relying on technology. But then something miraculously also happened. You know, in the 1990s, we had the opportunity of the World Wide Web. The internet existed since the 1940s. NASA used it, CIA used it, but it was Al Gore who decided we need to make this available for the world. And that's where the World Wide Web became what it is. It changed our lives for the better. At first, people didn't know how to navigate, how would this impact our lives. But ultimately, then you had the Googles of the world, you had Yahoo, and we would get emails, you got mail, right? Things that are not relevant and don't exist today. But then with that, we started seeing other things that happened where people started to use digital in social spaces. And that's when MySpace was created. So MySpace came after YouTube, where videos were being seen online. So Google, then YouTube was acquired by Google. Then we go into MySpace. So now I'm speaking early 2000s, right? So I'm talking about 2004, 2005. And then something called Facebook, that at that time was called the Facebook, started. So now we started socializing on digital. So we went from Y2K, World Wide Web, we went to the social space through MySpace that no longer exists. Then we went into emails where you would have personal email accounts, Hotmail, Yahoo, you had all of these things, Gmail. And then we had Facebook. But within that, then you had other things that started. Twitter, getting news on real time, Instagram. Then we started TikTok. So now we're at this point in time where social was not only about sharing, but influencers. You have over 50 million influencers, okay? 50 million influencers, people that could be moms, women, men, children that are influencing others, right? Then you have social commerce, meaning people that are selling through social media, either Facebook Marketplace, TikTok Shop, Amazon, etc. So a lot of these dynamics happen, but then something else happened. In 2020, we had a new decade in the 21st century, the second decade of the 21st century, which is 2020. We started a new decade and everyone was excited about the new decade. But all of a sudden, we started hearing something about a pandemic, an epidemic that could become a pandemic. And then we were reminded of the Spanish flu, which happened 100 years before. We were like, yeah, Spanish flu. Oh my gosh, it killed over 1 billion people. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but that was 100 years ago. Yeah, but now people are flying. You have over 5 million people that fly every day around the world. Now people are in all this globalized community that people can come from anywhere. So imagine. And we know the story, right? We know where it started, how it expanded. We saw it in Italy first, then we were in lockdown. So what did we do? We had to shift the way of thinking as moms or as business owners and entrepreneurs or working for companies. We had to go into lockdown. So we had to adapt of working while having our kids at home, trying to manage them having online learning, while also was trying to keep our families healthy and thriving. And guess what? We are resilient. We were able to do that. Yes, sadly, over 400 million people got COVID. Over 30 million people died, right? And that excludes China numbers. But we were tracking all that. But what it showed you is, look, advancements in science came in. There was not only one vaccine, but actually 3 vaccines. Not only that, we were able to bring back basic sanitation 101, wash your hands more often, and hey, maybe you have to wear a mask. But what we also found is maybe we could do remote work. Maybe we could do hybrid work. What we found and we discovered that even with very young children, they became savvy online. They were able to use tablets and laptops and be able to thrive socially. So what it showed us is that we were resilient. But then something else happened because technology continues to advance. And in 2022, November 2022, a company as a startup, which became the biggest startup in the history of startups, called OpenAI, brought to the masses something called generative AI, ChatGPT. So now you have AI, and I've been in AI since 2017, right? So AI, just like the internet existed decades before it came out public, AI also, right? Especially in security or biometrics, facial recognition, all of these things. Very mission impossible, right? When we think about technology and movies. But long story short, people are like, okay, so is this the AI? What does it really do? And people started to discover AI. Oh my gosh, if I probe, look at the efficiencies. I can write better emails. I can get data that I don't have the time to go to the library, or it would take much longer to do on Google. I'm trying to find ways to communicate to people or to get analytical data, whatever. So it has helped drive efficiencies and effectiveness. But with that, now I bring you to trends. So, as I was saying, a lot of things have happened, and we have had winds of change in good ways and some that have not been so that good. It's so good. Y2K, we were afraid, we overcome it. We were able to overcome it as a nation and as a world. But then we had 9/11. No one predicted that, right? So, what did marketers do at that time? For 1 month, unbelievable, there was no one single ad, no advertisement, either online or national television, out of respect. Mm-hmm. That was the only time in the history of humanity, since we've had television since the 1950s, that we were in solace, in solitude, but then resilience came back. And what it showed us is that even in difficult times, we overcome things. Think about the pandemic. Look, we thrive despite the uncertainty, despite the difficult times, despite the sadness of people that went through COVID or long COVID or lost loved ones. We have been able to show our resilience as human beings. Imagine us as moms trying to deal with that, not being able to see our parents or loved ones, being able, having to navigate, managing a household, cooking, cleaning, because now you don't have any help, any support, and also doing our jobs. So what it shows is that it can be done. So now we're at a tumultuous time in terms of, oh my gosh, inflation, there's no more pandemic, although COVID will never go away, right? But there's inflation. Now all of these tariffs, what would that do to my business? Oh my gosh, how do I navigate? Should I advertise? Should I stop investing because maybe I'm going to lose customers or people are not, their pockets are going to be having an Ozempic effect. I call it the Ozempic effect, where your wallets are shrinking, you're out of pocket. But here's the most important thing that I want to share with your audience is, as marketers, this is the time to invest. And why is that? Because you need to give a reason why they should buy your product, your service. Or if you're working with clients, tell them and encourage them. Because guess what? Yes, wallets are tighter. People are going to be more mindful of their money. But if you're offering something that it's not about being cheap, it's value for me, guess what? Are you going to stop using something that you love? I don't see iPhone sales dropping, right? Tesla sales dropped for another reason. Had nothing to do with this. But why are people spending over $1,000 on a phone? Think about it. Why do people spend $30 on a body lotion or on hair products? Why do people spend money on makeup? Why do you spend money on brands? Why is Nike doing so well in sales? So I share that with your audience because brands matter. Products, when you're giving a value proposition to someone, that there's a benefit for them, experiences matter. Relevance for them matters. So that maybe they're not going to buy you every month or require your services as they regularly would, but they're still going to consume you. But if you don't talk to them, if you don't remind them so they keep you in their top of mind, then they're going to forget you. And that's the one thing that you never want to lose. Don't lose relevance. So, what I tell people is we're all in this together, we're on the same flight. So, let's not lose focus. Let's not get sidetracked on what our ultimate goal is. So, if the goal for my business is X or Y or Z, focus on that goal. Make it happen. Don't get sidetracked. Maybe you need to, be a little bit more conscientious of your spending. Maybe you wanted to hire one or two people. Maybe just hire one. Maybe you bring someone part-time rather than full-time. Maybe you bring someone fractional. Maybe you hire freelancers, right? There are different ways that you can navigate through it. But what I would tell you is you need to continue to invest. We are all brands. So regardless of our business, if you're not out there, people are not going to know. And people forget. If there's one thing that I can tell you, regardless of whether you're Gen Z or a millennial, and I'm thinking about your audience, Gen Zennials, that's how I call them. We have a very short attention span, right? So when you think about millennials who were born with the internet, right? I'm Gen X, so I was there when the internet came out, right? Although I was extremely young. Then social media was born and everything else, right? And AI. So we have been like protagonists within that. The millennials were born with the internet and with social media. But Gen Z have had it all, right? And the generation of my children, which is the generation of many of your audience children, are Gen Alpha. That means that they have everything, including AI. So their way of learning, their way of approaching life, the way their level of attention, they can multi-screen, they can multi-interact, they can do so many things. So the attention span is very small. We know that human beings have an attention span shorter than a goldfish. Okay, a goldfish is 8 seconds. We're about 5 seconds as a human beings. So we have to keep that in mind, that people easily forget. So we need to invest. We need to put our message out there. We need to be smart. We need to be savvy. We need to be clever. And this is where we help clients. And what I tell people is, like I said, we're on the same flight. So yes, it's getting bumpy. Now it seems to be a little bit, going a little bit smoother for the time being. But yes, there could be turbulence. There could be winds of change. But don't let that distract you from your goal. Don't let that distract you from what you want to do. If you want to launch a business or you're thinking about doing it and you don't know how, find ways, look for ways, seek for advice. I'm happy to provide advice for anybody that needs it. Alexandra Gonzalez, savvymarketers.com. But what I want to say to your audience is don't lose track, don't lose hope, but be very clear on what your goals are. What is it that you want to do? And then find your way and plan accordingly on how you're going to get there. Yes, you can multitask. You can prove, and you have proven to yourself that you can do it all. You survive a pandemic. You're a mom. You're running a business. You have gone through many other things. And guess what? Here we are, and we can do it.
Amazing. Amazing. And the message that you are sharing to just keep going, keep our eye on the goal. And, there is a lot of uncertainty right now. And it is important to just stay focused and not get distracted.
Absolutely. And I'll say a word of advice because, of course, I am a supporter of women. I'm a supporter of moms. I'm a supporter of women in business as well. So regardless of the type of career, what you want to do as an entrepreneur, as a mompreneur, the one thing that I would encourage you is also find ways to leverage organizations that can support you. These are things that people didn't tell me. when I went on my own. So I'm trying to share that advice. Have a clear sense of what your goals are, what you want to do, what makes it different and unique, because you need to have your unique selling proposition for whatever, regardless of business, regardless of what you want to do as a mompreneur. But very importantly, once you have done that, seek advice. So, where would I seek advice if I were you? First, I would go to the Small Business Administration. Probably you're thinking, yeah, but that's federal agency. Well, guess what? They have offices at a state level. So regardless of what's happening at a federal level, with all the Doge and all that stuff that's happening, seek advice at a local. So if I am in New Jersey, like I am, you reach out to a representative in the state of New Jersey. That means that they are sponsored by the state, not federally, right? So you have people. Maybe you can get a woman-owned small business certification that opens doors, right? Maybe you want to seek other women organizations. So having an accreditation opens doors with corporate America, opens doors as a small business, opens doors at a state level. So keep that in mind, because nobody told me that. And I wish people did. And of course, I have all the certifications, but I could have had them way sooner, right? So even if you have your business in your home, if you haven't done the accounting and you have an LLC and you have your own business in your home, keep in mind that the space that you work, maybe you're working and you have an office, but maybe you're also using half of your kitchen as well. Maybe you're using also your bedroom. Maybe you're using part of the basement. Guess what? All that you have to account. The money that you're spending in advertising, you have to find ways to deduct that as part of your tax returns. So I'm sharing this advice of things that I wish other people would have told me. So as mompreneurs, regardless of how you manage your time, how you do things accordingly, find ways, right, to manage your budgets, right? And guess what? Rome was not built in a day, and that's okay. Take your time. Take your time. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, I didn't seek for funding. I self-funded my business and I grew it that way. But there are also other ways that you can get funding, maybe at a state level. Maybe you have a new idea and you can get a grant. Those grants are for free out there, right? Maybe you need help finding investors. There are ways that we can help. There are ways that you can find online. So do that due diligence. That's important. And look, it's okay if it takes time. But the important thing is that you do it right and that you're happy. Because there's no point of being a mompreneur if you feel that you're not doing it right. So I encourage your audience, look, take your time. It's okay. It's a learning curve. Rome was not built in a day, but even in the turbulence of times and uncertainties that we're living, we are going to thrive. We just need to have a very clear sense of purpose, understand what is our unique value proposition, and be able to communicate that to others. Because if you're not able to communicate, market, and advertise that to others, how are people going to know? They won't.
Yeah. Beautiful. Alexandra, how can our audience find you, learn more about you?
So, Christina, I would encourage them. Look, you can find me on LinkedIn, Alexandra Michelle Gonzalez. I am the CEO and founder of Savvy Marketers. You can also find us on our website. I am more than delighted to, if someone wants to reach out, has any questions, any advice, I see it as a way to pay it forward. It's not about being transactional. I think that as a community of women, as a community of moms, we also have to help each other. And I found throughout my career that some of my best bosses were actually men, not women. Some of the people that gave me the opportunity were men and not women. So I always said, I want to give the opportunity, as much opportunity as I can to women and to help women entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of ways that we can help, provide advice, and look, anything that they may need. If we're not the right person, we're also going to encourage you. Hey, maybe you can go and check this website, check this company. So at least they can find out more and get those opportunities, because I know it's tough out there.
That's so generous. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Blissful Mompreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a fellow mompreneur who might benefit from the advice. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps this podcast reach more amazing women just like you. Thank you again for being here. And until next time, keep pursuing your bliss.